But we've had some fun at the expense of Micah Parsons because Micah Parsons he's trying to do something which I like. I actually like, which is you're using your platform as a superstar football player to build something else, another career, right? I mean, the most famous guy, by the way, the best at it, is a guy named Roger Staubach, right? Former quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, who's made hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in, I believe, commercial real estate. But again, it all comes back from he was the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. Also an officer in the Navy. I mean, he's kind of a stud guy. But anyway, that's not the point. The point is, I like that Micah Parsons is using his stardom, and he wants to have a podcast. Great. Anybody who's at the Super Bowl is like, wow, he's got a podcast. Make sure you pump my podcast. But he's also kind of stepped in it, and he wants to do what J.J. Redick is doing, really. He wants to tell the reality from a guy inside football to people on TV that are yelling about football that don't actually know about football, right? Don't you feel like that's what he wants to set the record straight? But there's a hard one in setting the record straight, right? Because sometimes your guy, your quarterback, your teammate, your owner, your team is being discussed. And how much of the truth do people actually deserve, and how much can it disrupt what you're doing with this secondary ancillary job? Here's Micah Parsons and Stephen A. Smith. They had this exchange talking about Dak Prescott.
I just think when y'all analyzing, I think so much falls on the quarterback. And
we know this, Micah. Why are you doing that?
Because y'all forget that it's so much other factors out there.
We didn't do that to Patrick Mahomes. We didn't do that to Lamar Jackson. We didn't do that to Josh Allen.
Not to the same extent. 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 Not to the same extent.
You think, you're implying that you think we're a bit cruel to Dak Prescott?
I did not say cruel. Look, he's trying to throw this.
All right, forget cruel. Are you thinking we're a bit too hard on Dak Prescott with his player performances?
I just think y'all analyze everyone differently.
You think we
Besides Patrick Mahomes, what other quarterback in the AFC has accomplished anything to get more credit than Dak?
Joe Burrow's been to a Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers won multiple MVPs, won a Super Bowl. Lamar Jackson's been criticized, right? He has 2 MVPs, but only 2 playoff wins, right? 2 playoff wins to his name. He's received plenty of criticism. And look, this is not me simply pushing back on Dak Prescott's woe is me, you're picking on Micah Parsons, woe is me, you're picking on Dak Prescott. Like, no, we've gotten this from people. Why do you pick on Lamar Jackson? We're like, no, that's the position. It's always been the position. Okay? We used to call Peyton Manning Clayton Manning, like he was Clayton Kershaw. Couldn't play in the big game. He's regular season like 80% winning percentage, postseason 50% winning percentage, right? That's how it works. Okay? It's how it works. Again, no one said it's fair life, by the way, not fair. But that is the position. That is the position. You don't think Dan Marino's sitting back there going like, dude, I was better than Joe Montana? If I had Jerry Rice, if I had that defense, I was better. If I had Roger Craig as my running back, the high knees. But that's not the way it works, dude. Joe Montana beat him once in head-to-head, won 3 other Super Bowls. Joe Montana for that era was the GOAT. Period, stop, end of story. I said this about John Elway. When John Elway lost the first 2 Super Bowls, when they got eviscerated, remember what? Because people always tell the story of the drive and the fumble. What they fail to remember is the Broncos got eviscerated in those 2 Super Bowls, right? And my point would always be about John Elway. He was better then. He was peak of his powers. He was, and I thought, Colin, the best parallel Colin has done in terms of player comp is Josh Allen and John Elway. Like those two are, that's what the John Elway experience was like. Man, he was so big, so athletic, could throw a football. But they get to a Super Bowl, and then the team wasn't that good. And he couldn't play. He couldn't be the superhero. When he won 2 Super Bowls, I don't know if people remember this. When John Elway won his first Super Bowl, it was the lowest quarterback rating a Super Bowl champion had ever achieved. In other words, he didn't do anything. It was like a lot like Peyton Manning's last Super Bowl. He didn't do anything. Hand the ball off. Great defense. Very smart, simple game plan. Won. Right? Everybody remembers the helicopter in for his last Super Bowl, right? People forget, like, he was just okay at that point in time. But again, that's not how it works. We judge based upon results. Judge based upon results. And this is where Micah Parsons, it's basically impossible to do what you want to do, which is to be an informed NFL analyst while playing in the NFL, especially when you're a Cowboy. Like, Dak Prescott threw 2 pick sixes in their loss to the Green Bay Packers, correct? That did happen? Again, it's very possible. I've thrown on games before and I've mistaken things before. But if I'm not mistaken, can you guys help me out? Did Dak Prescott throw 2 pick sixes against the Green Bay Packers? The Green Bay Packers defense, okay, was so maligned this year that even though they beat the Cowboys and should have beaten the Niners, right? Honestly, that one was as much on Jordan Love, just too young, didn't know how he could just stick the stake in the heart of the Niners. But against that team, like, they held him in check until the last drive. Excuse me, only one was a pick six. The second one was interception, led to a touchdown. My bad. Okay, but you throw 2 interceptions, one's a pick six. The game was over at halftime. And it wasn't because the Packers defense was amazing. They got a couple turnovers. And the offense wasn't amazing. They got those turnovers and they led to 14 points. Like, that was the game. The Packers defense was so maligned that the second the season was over, despite beating the Dallas Cowboys on the road and playing head up with the Niners on the road in the rain, they fired the defense coordinator. And by the way, nobody was like, no, you can't fire that guy. They're like, dude, our defense sucks. And that's Dak Prescott's performance against it. We don't care about the second half. Oh, we got to go in the second half. Like, dude, the game was over. Over. So, it's the Cowboys. It doesn't happen, off network where we can't see. We saw them against the Niners in the regular season. We've seen them in the playoffs last year against the Niners in the playoffs. This year against the Packers. Like, what more do you want? Is it fair that we cut out, 75, 80% of the games? No, it's not fair. But that's the way it works. This is big boy sports. Okay? You want to play for the Cowboys? When you lose, we're all going to celebrate. Because every year, we're so tired of hearing, this is your year. It's what you sign up for. Now, there's benefits to it. Look on your TV set. All the former Cowboys. I mean, Tony Romo didn't win anything. And he's the voice of CBS. Why? He's a Cowboy. It's a great story. Undrafted. He's a good quarterback. But this is how the elites are judged. And, oh, yeah, by the way, Micah, like, if you're going to do this thing and you're going to say, hey, not another AFC quarterback outside of Pat Mahomes that's done anything, like, isn't Aaron Rodgers in the AFC? By the way, I mean, just like if we want to get to it, he's still in the NFC. Russell Wilson's in the AFC. Right? And again, I think Russell Wilson's toast. But again, like, Russell Wilson's been to 2 Super Bowls, won a Super Bowl, done plenty of amazing comeback against the Packers, just to get to one of the Super Bowls. Like, plenty of accomplishments there. Hell, he's suspended, but Jimmy Garoppolo was an AFC quarterback. He'd been to a Super Bowl. Again, I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is as good as Dak Prescott. Instead, change the argument. Like, look, you don't understand all the things that Dak Prescott does to lead us, to get us ready, all the plays that he makes, the leadership. That's actually what he could do and provide insight and support his argument. Instead, he's doing what we accuse others of doing, which is what we started the show with. It's that fast food, junk food, throwing out hot takes that don't really have substance. I like Micah. I think he's an awesome player. Dude went to work in the celebrity all-star game. More so than I went to work in the celebrity. I had 17 at the half. I just want to point out. And I wasn't ball hogging or anything. I just had a good time. And then halftime, they're like, dude, slow down there. Like, let's let Kevin Hart get another MVP. All right. Arnie Duncan was awesome to play with. Arnie Duncan at the time was Secretary of Education, and he went to Princeton. He might have played at Princeton. I think he played at Princeton. He was awesome. We're back cutting and throwing. Like, what are you guys doing? Like, we're playing basketball. Micah Parsons did like 37 on like 33 shots in the celebrity game. Like, dude, what are you doing? I will say this. He played harder than any of those guys in the real All-Star game.